Okay guys, so what we're going to do this week is let's start a little video series on the Toyota Camry and Honda Accord. When people are choosing between family sedans, these are usually the two that they're going to choose from. We have both. I drive a 2013 Honda Accord Sport, and my wife drives a 2012 Camry SE. We've obviously chosen them for different reasons, and they're pretty evenly matched here. They're loaded pretty much the same. We were actually able to get the Camry in at where is it? 24,645. Our negotiated price on that was 22,800. Not the greatest I've ever done. I actually thought I could probably do better, but we've had this car for over a year now, and it has approximately 25,000 miles on it, so we can give you a pretty good indication of how this car's been running. And actually, to match up to the Accord, we did add a power seat and carpet, which sounds kind of weird that you have to pay for carpet, but because the Honda actually came with it, but the Toyota carpet actually is pretty damn nice. It also came with the owner's manual that looked pretty good too. But anyways, that's just little things. So on 2013 Accord, this is actually a stick, whereas the Camry is an automatic. I don't trust CVTs, never have, and I don't think I can ever will. I just don't like the way they act. I don't, they get better gas mileage, they really do. But this Accord Sport 6-speed is a nice car. It's an easy stick to drive. And I would suggest it to anyone who wants to learn a stick. It's one of you. I think anyone could just jump in it and learn it within a day. Anyways, we came in at 24,180. Our negotiated price on this was 21,800. So these cars are about $1,000 apart. But if you added a automatic transmission, it's negligible. I mean, the difference between the two. And now with the Camry being a little older now, you can negotiate that price a lot lower than you used to. So the Accord, I think, had a better restyle than the Camry did. It's a much more attractive car, and it does have a lot more, I think, better technology than the Camry does. The Camry is, though, a good appliance. I mean, it's a car that you really don't have to worry about as far as maintenance goes or quality goes. Honda's a great car too, and I agree that it is, but we'll get into it. Today we're going to start with the engine. We're going to talk about the engines, and we'll go on from there and talk about different parts of the car and how we've used them and the pros and cons to it. I mean, I'm not going to say either one car is better than the other, but I'll let you guys make up your mind. If that's what you're deciding between, these two cars. It's good to see real world usage on these cars. I mean, if I have to knock both these cars right off the bat, it's the paint. I mean, I know that they're forced to use water-based paints now, but these cars scratch so easy now. I don't remember ever having cars scratch so darn easy. And when you're talking about family sedans, you're going to get scratches no matter what you do. But it just seems like the slightest little hiccup and they're scratched. So we're going to go ahead and get into this, and we'll see where we go with it. Okay, so here we are. This is the Toyota Camry. I'm going to pop the hood. Now, first thing I'm going to get into, I believe the Honda is a very, very nice car. I really like it. That's actually my daily driver. The Camry is my wife's daily driver. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be probably the way it is. I mean, it's going to be the majority of men who drive the cars are probably going to get the Accord. Women are going to get the Camry. Obviously, with mine, it's a stick, so that's probably more reason why I'm driving it. But these are strict commuters, so family cars and commuters, these are just the best out there. Number one, for maintenance costs, and number two, just ease of use. Now, people are like, well, you can get this car, get that car. When it comes down to it, you want to get the highest volume car, so the parts are cheap. They're just easier to work on. They're easier to find parts, easier to find people who can work on them. In my case, I do all my work myself. So let's get into this engine. First of all, something the Honda lacks. This has struts on the hood. It's actually pretty nice. The other thing I noticed is that the latch assembly here is much better than it is on the Accord. The Accord's made out of stamped steel. This is stamped as well, but it's painted and it's tighter. It feels like a heavier duty piece than on the Accord. We'll get into that later though. So this is our 2.5 liter. I do believe it's 178 horsepower. It's not as powerful as the Accord, hands down. It is a traditional port injection instead of direct injection. So they also do this funny thing where they run the water pipe behind the exhaust pipe so it warms up the engine faster. So you'll see that metal line that runs behind there, that's there on purpose. And also they want to warm the transmission up fast, so there's actually a valve down there that heats up the transmission more quickly. Now mainly I want to talk about ease of use. Getting to the airbox is really easy. It's in an easy position. Pop this up, it's really easy to swap. I've already switched an air filter out on this. It was very easy. The Toyota also utilizes a mass airflow sensor, which needs to be cleaned from time to time and can cause you some grief when your idle goes bad. Did notice that Toyotas are always using larger batteries. The battery on the Accord is smaller, so whether that causes anything, probably not, but it is worth noting. When it comes to belts, both these cars utilize electric steering. So your serpentine belt here only drives the water pump, air conditioning, and the tensioner. So it's actually really easy to replace. It's a very small belt, easily accessible. That's huge when you're trying to get maintenance done, is having all these parts very, very accessible. So also your ABS module, right in the open, easy to get to. All the lines are not hidden in any way. All the air conditioning lines, same thing, all out in the open, easy to get to. And that's kind of what I look at when I look at cars. I'm deciding on a car, and I've never been a fan of it, but the computer's right here. It's under the hood. It's easy to disconnect. These just flip up and connects the whole harness, so the computer just slides right out. So if you ever had an issue with that, it's an easy replace. Oxygen sensor, same thing, right on top, connects right there. This is the upstream. Obviously there's one farther downstream. Easy to get to. Alternator, easy to get to. If it ever fails, literally you're looking at 25-30 minutes to get that out and changed. So that's always a plus to have these things up in the open. The oil cap, right in the open. Checking your oil, right in the open. I know it sounds weird, but I've worked on cars where they're in the stupidest positions where you can't get to them. And that brings me to the transmission. So you look around, you're not going to see anywhere to check the transmission fluid. And I do believe on this model that you can't. You have to actually pull a bolt that drips out when you drain the transmission fluid, and that tells you when you're full. I've never been a fan of that, and it isn't easy to get to. It's kind of buried down there. I don't really care for that type of design, but that is what it is. Your master cylinder and your brake booster are right here. That's pretty much in the open. It's easy. It looks like it's pretty easy to get to if you ever need to check or add fluid there. Fuse box, easy to get to, easy to unhook. Pops right out. You can get in there, check fuses, change fuses, and I get to push both sides. And then on the inside, you have your fuse holder, puller, and a couple extra fuses. That's actually pretty nice. A lot of them don't even do that anymore. Okay, so I think it pretty much does it for the top end here. This is a very solid build engine. This is actually a reworked version of the 2.4 liter, and they made significant improvements on this engine. I had the older 2.4. It had some valve stem issues, and they've resolved those. They've switched to Viton gaskets on the valve seals, so now on the gaskets that are on the stems of the valves. So that solved that issue. But the Camry's last edition was known for valve seal failure and smoking, so that's been resolved. The head's also obviously been reworked. It sits lower. It used to kind of pop up more. They recessed the head a little bit more, so on the top of the head where the valves are. So that's been reworked. Downside obviously is that this didn't do too well on the offset crash test, and I'll tell you why. I can actually point out why. And you see right here, this is all covered. There's metal all the way through here on both sides. It's metal all the way through. There's no open gap or anything right here. On the Accord, it's the opposite. That little area right here is no metal, and you would think that would be worse. It's not, because when you have an offset crash, it drives that wheel on this side up and in. If there's no metal right here, it actually pushes the wheel up instead of in, so it doesn't penetrate the compartment. So that's the reason I do believe that the Accord fared a lot better, because you watch the crash, which I have. That's one of the things I noticed, is that wheel goes up and in instead of into the compartment. So let's go under the engine under the car for a second. This is the other question a lot of people always have. Ease of use down here. They use a traditional stamped steel oil pan. I don't care for those, but that's what we have. It also uses a cartridge type filter, so that means that it's not a typical spin-off. It has a cartridge on it. You actually can see the oxygen sensor too. The downstream is right over there, so it's a downstream, and it's also kind of in the open, so it's pretty easy to get to. It's not out of the way at all. So I spoke a moment about the oil filter that's used on the Camry. This is a factory element that's on there. It's weird that this is more expensive, generally speaking, than the traditional spin-on filters, considering what you're getting. Now, this part right here is used to drain the oil out of the actual cartridge before you take it off, so it doesn't leak oil everywhere. That's actually pretty cool. You get brand new O-rings, and then it's just a filter element. You know, this is what your spin-on looks like when it doesn't have that metal casing on it. Now, this is the funny part. This is to tell you how mass-produced these cars are. This is the tool to take off the cartridge filter. The funny part is this is the same size as the Honda Accord. This will fit both cars. So I always found that kind of odd. And actually on the Accord, it's really funny too, is that they didn't change the size. It's the same size filter as it's been since like 1996. So that spin-on filter, I'm pretty sure it's a 7317 if it's a Fram. They've never changed it, which is really smart, so you don't have to spend more money on a filter that doesn't exist or they have to manufacture. So I thought it was smart on Honda's part. So just give me a moment, we'll get into the Accord. Okay, so now we're under the Accord, and you'll see my preference here. That's a cast aluminum pan, which I much prefer over the stamped steel, mainly because they tend not to leak as much. You'll see in both cars, I've noticed this, there was assembly lube obviously put on the rear main seal, so they'll have that little bit of residue left there. This car has about 8,000 miles on it now. I obviously drive the crap out of these things. And there's the oil filter. I don't think the filter's put in as good a spot as the Camry. It does tend to get a little bit on that little ledge right there, but for the most part, it's not too bad. So I just wanted to look under here. The oxygen sensor in the downstream is actually in a better position than it is in the Camry. You'll see it sticking out sideways right there. That's actually probably even easier to get to. The chances you'll have to change the downstream are pretty low though. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at what it looks like under here. Pretty well laid out, easy to get to, easy to service. I don't like how close this gets, but to each their own. I know they're trying to do whatever they can to get this exhaust to warm up the engine faster, but I don't like seals being close to exhaust parts because that tends to make them leak. But it is cast, so it's aluminum against aluminum, so it's less likely to have different expansion ratios that would cause a leak. So unlike the stamped steel obviously against aluminum, more likely to have a leak down the line. Like I said, it's a 6-speed transmission, so that's not the CVT that you're seeing there. That is a manual, and a very well built one at that. I mean, the ratios are very well matched. This engine doesn't make a lot of reverse noise. I've really enjoyed it. It's definitely a well built piece. So that's it for the underbody right now, and we'll move up to the top. Okay, so here we are. This is the Honda Accord, the Earth Dreams 2.4 liter. It is direct injection. That's your direct injection module right here. One thing obviously you're going to notice right off the bat is it is noisier because of direct injection, kind of like a diesel. The other thing I had mentioned was this is the release on the hood, and literally it just feels really cheap. And comparatively speaking to what the Camry has, this looks like crap. But I've noticed that on a couple things on the Accord. I understand they need to save money. They've invested money in different places, so they've obviously had to take money out of other places. The other thing is obviously you don't get struts. You have a bar on it, so that's, you know, to take it or leave it. That's kind of annoying. I wish it would have had struts like the other one. So let's get into this. I mean, there was a couple things I really wanted to talk about. Number one, the belt pattern is pretty much the same. You have this one actually is easier because you see the tensioner sticks out right there, so it's easier to get to. But the same thing, the belt kind of stays in the front here, it doesn't run to the back. So it's that's an easy maintenance item. Same thing, alternator's in the front just like it is in the Camry, easy to get to. But a lot of things you'll notice are in the same spot. ABS controller right there in the open. Now you'll notice what I was talking about that crash zone. This part is open all the way into the fender well. I'm touching plastic on the inside there. So there's nothing inside there. And like I said, that seems to be what helps it during those crash tests. They that this area serves to allow that wheel some motion to move up instead of into the engine compartment, into the passenger compartment. Now we'll get into the next things. Same idea. There's a metal routing that goes through here with that has the antifreeze going under there, and that's heated by the exhaust manifold. That's another thing, obviously, we talked about that they were doing. Instead of having an upper engine mount up in this area, it sits lower, and it hooks up to the subframe. That actually will probably mean that this engine's always going to run smoother than the Camry because it leaves it lower. It transfers that energy, the shaking energy, lower than the Camry does. So same thing, engine mount down here, small battery like I mentioned. Now this is where I'm probably going to dog the Camry a little bit. I mean the Accord. This is where you take off the air filter right here and right here. The difference is that it flips up and has to pull out versus the other way around. On the Camry it goes this way and up, so you don't have to unhook this. And this, you're going to have to either like really be careful when you pull it out, or you're going to have to unhook it right here first so you can get this top of the air box off. That's the mass airflow sensor for the Accord. Same thing as the Camry, so that's another thing you'll have to clean every now and then to keep the idle from getting rough, because we can probably talk about that for a second. Mass airflow sensor is actually a meter it's telling the computer how much air is entering the engine. If there any kind of dirt gets on it, it's extremely sensitive, and it will cause idle issues. So something to keep in mind. Fuse box. I think you can say that's a bad spot. Yes, it has an upper strut bar. That's something the Camry's lacking, but that's kind of a pain in the butt to have that right in the way. Also, it tucks up right against the master cylinder brake booster area, and that's kind of also that's tougher to get to. So nothing's bad. I'm not going to say that one car is better than the other, because they're not, because they both have their strengths and weaknesses. So if you're looking for a video that's going to go, well, this car is better than that car, I like these cars equally. I really do. I think both of them have their strengths and they both have their weaknesses. So we'll continue talking about this. Once again, this is why it's louder. This is the direct injection module right here. This is where the gasoline comes up, and fuel pump pumps it up to here at regular pressure. Once it hits here, that's where the pressure gets really high. Now, this is where I will commend Honda. Now, if you look at the exhaust manifold, there really isn't a manifold. It's integrated into the head itself, meaning that the ports coming out of here go 4 to 1 directly into the exhaust. So why is that so great? Well, if you're planning on keeping this car for a long time, you're eventually going to have to replace this catalytic converter. Now you just have to replace this little downpipe assembly right here, especially in California. California, you have to use an OEM part. You can't use an aftermarket part. I know, it sucks. But anyways, but you'll see this little piece right here where it has a little L pipe, that's going to be a lot cheaper to replace than an exhaust manifold like what it is on the Camry, where it actually has all 4 cylinders feeding into a catalytic converter. So that actually is a big plus for this car. So there's a lot of things that Honda did here that I think they really trumped Toyota. Toyota builds a good engine, but this is a better engine, hands down. The design is better. They really did their homework and started from scratch. A lot of things are thoughtfully done. The main thing I like about the Toyota and the Accord is that you notice there's not a lot of wires here. I work on a lot of cars. I worked on Fords. They literally look like Medusa engines. They're just covered in wires everywhere. There's wires for a wire. I don't like that. I've never liked that. And it's not knocking Ford. I think they built a good car, but to work on it, pain in the neck, especially with the turbos. I mean, it's more work, and you have to decide whether or not you want to do more work. But you'll notice that Honda does things to make your life easier. Like right here, this is a super long bolt that holds down this main engine mount. It's long so that you can get a tool to that faster to pull it off. I mean, all these things are done to make it easier to work on. This car has literally been designed to be serviced, which is a good thing. I did notice that this car did get white residue on the hoses pretty fast, whereas the Toyota didn't. I don't know if that's just manufacturer did that, or if it's just, I don't know, it's weird. That happened really quick, and it happened in a lot of the gaskets. Whoever supplies that, I think, supplies the weather gaskets, because they all kind of got that white residue on them pretty quick. So serviceability between the Accord and the Camry is pretty even. I kind of give the Accord a slight edge as far as serviceability goes. It's you know, they're obviously pretty much the same, laid out the same way. Remember I said the ABS controllers over on this side, alternators right there, caps right here. They do all that stuff on purpose. None of this is an accident. I mean, the computer is almost in the same area. The computer on this one's right here, but will give them a mark against that because the connectors are on the side here. That's harder to get to. There's probably a better way, easy way to get to there, but it's easier to get to on the Camry. Fuse box is in a less accessible area, but the reason I'm going to give the Accord the edge is because they've done a good job designing a motor for the future, versus the Camry's still kind of stuck in the past, and they really need to move it forward. So I mean, that's funny actually, because I think their slogan is moving forward. This engine's moving forward. It doesn't put out a ton of horsepower. They could have probably easily gotten 200 horsepower out of this, but they designed it for the torque range, meaning that the torque comes in really early on this motor, a lot earlier than it does on the Camry. Gas mileage wise, this is obviously a stick. They're rated about the same. Let's go take a look at that real quick. Okay, so the Camry's 25-35, and that's obviously because it has an automatic, and on the Accord it's 24-34. A little lower, and it's because this Accord is actually pretty damn fast. It's a quick car, so we'll definitely say that the Camry should be getting better gas mileage. But we all know those MPG ratings don't mean crap. This car is commuted 70-30, generally speaking. I keep good track of the miles per gallon it gets. I have an app that keeps track of it pretty directly. I've been averaging about, I think it's 31.3 on the Accord. My wife drives about the same as I do, but she hits more traffic, and she's averaging over 31 as well. So the cars are pretty even as far as gas mileage goes, but the Accord is definitely quicker, and if it had a CVT, it'd be a lot slower, but that gas mileage would probably beat the Camry, hands down. So the CVT, I will give it its merits. The merits are definitely that it keeps its RPMs down, especially when you're cruising on the freeway. And there's just more parasitic loss on the traditional automatic transmission versus the CVT. Now the Accord, I think, is downright amazing. I've seen some dyno testing on this 6-speed that shows almost no parasitic loss to that transmission, or they're underrating that motor, because I've seen it come back at like 178 horsepower, and that's pretty crazy because it's only rated at 189 horsepower, which would be kind of odd that it has no parasitic loss, but I don't think it does. I think it's more down the range of it's been underrated. So I think that's pretty much going to wrap up what we're going to talk about right now for the engine wise. If you guys have any questions, please ask. Next week I will come up with part 2, and I think we'll start talking about exterior styling. And to touch on that a little bit, there's something to be said about a car that's a little bit too attractive to be a family sedan. I think the Mazda 6 falls into that category, and I think the Honda Accord falls in that category. And that means that it's supposed to be a family sedan, and you shouldn't be scared to put your kids in it because you don't want them to scratch it. I mean, the Camry all day long, we take it more often because I don't care about it being scratched, because it's a utilitarian appliance. The Accord
it actually hurts my feelings when I find a scratch on it. So that just gives you an idea how the differences go as far as that goes. So until next week, please post any questions onto the comment section, and I'll try to follow up with anything you guys want to talk about or you're interested about.